Oi, you know what time it is? You're tuned in listening to Dry That Aussie Metal Guy. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his content when it drops. And remember, stay brutal, you mad dogs. Roof.
G'day, how are you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie Metal Guy here with Crank.com and with that metalstation.com, also co-host of The Bloody Legends with myself and Jim Taylor. Today, tonight, wherever you are in the world, it's with great pleasure that we have the entire band of Stray plus the Wild, Alex, Alan, Ginny and Sam, whose debut single recently came out 6 days ago, Show Me the Way. Cheers for joining me, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, we're excited to be here.
Yeah.
Absolute bloody pleasure. I dare say the excitement has been fairly high this week with the debut single and the reception it has received. But can you tell me a little bit about kind of where this all began for Stray plus the Wild?
Yeah, I mean, I was coming out of another project like a few years back, like a touring group, and I met Alexandria here, and we started writing together casually just for fun. My head wasn't in the right place to start a group or anything at that point. Literally, I was touring all over the planet, and one day everything stopped. And so we just started writing together casually, and you know, month to month went by, and things just, you know, we really gelled like sonically, and I really liked her voice, and she took me out of my comfort zone as a writer. And really, I felt like it really pushed me to, you know, to learn how to write to her style of vocal.
Yeah, it sounds like it would have been a... Sorry, you go, Alexandra.
So as it progressed, you know, my musical abilities were pretty much singing and writing, but I like to dabble in instruments here and there. So one day we were writing, he's like, I'm going to put a bass in your hand. So I was like, okay, cool. I don't know what I'm doing. And came up with something cool, and that was our first song. And then he was like, okay, you can't just come up with a song like that. I need to come up with a song. And that's kind of how Show Me the Way was written.
Yeah.
Like a competition thing.
Yeah, I kind of wrote it out of like, I felt like pushed a little bit. I'm like, really? Because we end up recording what she came up with, and hopefully it'll come out someday. And like literally the next day, I came up with the whole premise for Show Me the Way.
It sounds like it was a very cathartic experience at first starting this band, like one for yourself just to kind of create the music, and then kind of snowballing into this as well, because you were all in projects before this. I know you were Living Dead Lights, and Jenny, you had a couple of other bands as well. Pretty keen to hear what you were all kind of doing as well, kind of before this too.
I've been in... Oh yeah, I've been in bands for forever. Actually, one of them was based in Australia. It was called the Red Paintings. I don't know if you've ever heard of those guys, but yeah, no, I've been playing bass since I was a wee person. So one of the bands that I was playing with had just disbanded, and then I got an email from Alan, and I heard this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And like Allie's like my beef right now, and it's really, really fun to be in a band with them and Sam.
Exactly. And what were you doing prior to this, Sam?
I've been playing in bands too since I was really young. I went to Berklee College of Music, and I moved to LA probably like 3 years ago. And that's right when I linked with these three, and they had some music, and we really hit it off. I think we all have a lot of similarities. I think we're all vegan, and we all like the same kind of music. So just kind of came together, and yeah.
Yeah, well, it's got a really, really great sound. First off, how would you describe the sound you're going for with the band? And then tell us a little bit about some of your influences and inspirations kind of leading into this.
That's a good question. We've been trying to figure out exactly where we fit in this world of music today. And I came from like a heavy rock background, like punk rock, heavy rock thing, but on the side, I love bands like the Beatles and Radiohead, Floyd and like Bowie and stuff that was a little more like thought out, but I never really got to play that stuff. So, or at least I never really got to play that, put too much of it into a band, unfortunately. And working with her voice, it really just, it opened me up to the possibilities of that. And I don't really know like exactly what to call us. I think we're definitely like a darker alternative group. I mean, not, I don't dare put us like in a metal category because of her voice. Isn't like she's not a screamer. So it's hard to really to make that claim. But we like a lot of the same types of music though. I mean, we love bands like Black Sabbath to Radiohead or Typo Negative or this full spectrum. So I can't really like limit it to like a handful of groups. There's literally thousands of bands that I probably like. So
Pulled influences from.
yeah, and it's totally like we pulled influences from all over the place, and it just kind of became whatever people think that we are, I guess.
Yeah, and then you touched on Alexandria. I want to talk to you about your your voice. Alan just mentioned through what he was saying there. You have an amazing voice. What are some of your influences and inspirations? And we'll get to you as well, Ginny and Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of, younger. I was into more like obscure female bands. I don't know if you ever heard Rasputina and that type of stuff. And then of course like Radiohead and Muse. I really started off with like that stuff because I was able to sing along to it and develop my voice and everything. And as I got a little bit older, I got into the bit heavier stuff, which kind of came the dark aspect of my, I guess, gosh, can't think of the word.
System of Down.
Yeah, I love System of the Down and all that stuff too. So it all kind of meshed together, and I guess I try to make like a female version of stuff like that.
Yeah, no.
Here's a funny thing about Rasputina that I learned a couple of years ago working with her is if you've ever seen like those old school Nirvana unplugged videos, those are the ladies in the background playing violin and cello in those videos, and they end up becoming this thing. So it was like doing a long drive with her one day and looking at the Wikipedia, listening to one of their songs. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Just seeing like where people come from and how artists develop. And
definitely, I was a massive Nirvana fan back when I was 15, like massive, 95, just
nice.
rocking the hell out of it, dude. I remember that as well. Cool as bloody hell. Ginny and Sam, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of your influences and inspirations?
All right, I'll go. I've been listening to like heavy music since I was a kid. Like my grandma raised me on Iron Maiden. So I've been like in that vein ever since, I was 8 years old. But I used to play in like a prog metal band back when I was in like my late teens, early 20s. But moving out here in LA, there's a lot of pop music and not a lot of it really resonated with me. So it was really exciting to find like a band with a darker aesthetic, like this group.
Ginny?
Oh my gosh, I love Nirvana. I remember like being like super small when like it came on the news that Kurt Cobain died, and then like I was like, wait, who's this guy, Dad? And then like just like falling in love with Nirvana and like putting Vaseline in my hair to try to like look like Kurt Cobain. I'm so glad that was short lived. But I grew up listening to mostly like punk rock stuff. I got into like pop punk for a really long time. Like NoFX was like my everything. But my favorite band is Styx, and I love like the Smiths and Architects. I'm like everybody else. Like my tastes are pretty eclectic, I guess.
All over the place. And NoFX, they're playing their last tour, aren't they? And they're winding up, I think, at the moment, aren't they? Well,
really?
Yeah, I think so.
Gosh,
after how many years? I know they're coming to Australia for the last time. So, yeah, I know a few bands I'm seeing at the moment that are doing that. You guys, I did see somewhere that you've got some tour dates you want to announce later, but you must be looking forward to kind of getting out there and playing some of these shows live in 2024, yeah?
I certainly hope so. We're trying to put some stuff together for spring, and we wanted really this video to marinate for a second, just to kind of see what was going to happen. And it's definitely, so far so good. Things have been going really well. And predicated on the success of that, it would be easier to to get the right thing going.
Yeah, you get the listens up,
the right type of groups going. So.
Yeah. And he's already working with some pretty amazing talent as well. It was like produced by Mud Rock there, I've seen as well. He's worked with the likes of bands like Avenged Sevenfold, Linkin Park, Godsmack, Deftones, and the list bloody goes on as well. And the music video directed by Rich Ragsdale and produced by Kevin there as well, Ragsdale. Track mastered by Howie Weinberg, who has bloody worked with so many great artists as well. It must be good to be working with all these talented people behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate we're able to have a really good team behind us that gets it, and and easy to work with too. You're working with them hands-on. And
so, Alexandria, tell us a little bit about your vocal delivery. Kind of tell me kind of how you got into vocals, and then your delivery is absolutely amazing. This track, from the moment it grabs you, it was like, I've heard it like a good half a dozen times just this morning alone, and it still blows me away.
I don't really have a technique. I attribute my rhythm to being a dancer as a kid. I did tap, jazz, and ballet for like 10, 12 years. So I got really good rhythm from that. And then because of that, more of my love for music blossomed. And I kind of just started humming and singing to myself, and the whole like angsty, preteen and teen, I was like writing in my room, secluding myself, singing to myself, trying to come up with things. And, I never was trained. So I kind of just did it in my room away from everybody else, because I kind of grew up, I have older siblings by a lot of years, so I kind of just was by myself and kind of just focused on that on my own. So yeah, and I kind of just played with my voice. And then meeting Alan, he also really helped me to kind of hone in on, like, he could hear like in the ear to like, oh, this sounds really good, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know, let me try to figure out how I did that and replicate it. And it kind of, yeah, it was all kind of just a self-discovery.
Yeah, so this is the first project for you where you've kind of sang,
like,
yeah?
Yeah, majorly, yeah. I was
Majorly sang?
Like in a garage band in high school at one point. Nothing ever happened with that. Just fiddling around with friends. And then I was in a band before this. We only played 2 shows, but I didn't really like where it was going, and it just didn't fit my voice. And they wanted to do more covers and stuff, which is great, but that's not what I wanted to do. So then that kind of, I walked away from that, and then me and Alan started working together.
So it must be great working with Alan, Ginny, and Sam as well, who have such an extensive musical history behind them as well, and kind of learn off of them as you go forward with this project as well.
Yeah, I was really excited to have another female in the band. That was when we're looking for a bass player. I was like, I really want a female in the band. I want to have that with me, especially when we tour and stuff. We can go off to the bathroom together or whatever to stay safe. We could, we can have each other just to talk, and the boys can have each other just to talk and stuff. So I was really looking forward to working with another female. Then we found her through a friend, and I was like, yeah, she's pretty good. Let's get her in.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you joining the project and how that all happened, Ginny.
I wish there was like a cooler story.
No, it doesn't have to be. Any story is cool.
No, I mean, like, I was in a band for a long time called Nine Electric, and anyways, like, we had broken up, as bands tend to do, and then I got an email from Alan. And then again, like, I think he sent me like a couple like demos, and again I just was like, oh my gosh, like, who is this chick singing? And then I remember, well, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to anyways. I remember seeing a picture of her and being like, dude, I hope she doesn't suck, like, as personality wise, because like, she's like super pretty or whatever. And then I met her and I was like, oh my gosh, this chick's awesome. And then we ended up talking and like giggling through rehearsal and making Alan mad, and it was, I don't know, it was awesome. It's super cool. I feel like I found my wife friend and a band at the same time.
Well, that's important as a band. You got to be able to connect. It's like a family, you know what I mean? And you spend a lot of time together creating music, and the state of the music scene, it's like you got to work bloody hard to kind of get something out of the band. And you guys have all, Alan, Ginny, and Sam, been in bands before. You know what a struggle and what a troll it is, but it's something you absolutely love doing, you know, and creating this music. So be able to find other band members that do appreciate that fact, the amount of work that goes into it, is definitely a plus.
Yeah, like why do it if it's not fun?
Yep.
And like there's so much downtime on tour, especially, as everyone knows, like the vast majority is just sitting and waiting. So if you can't like sit and wait with people you like that would just, it'll just wear on you.
That would blow.
Yeah. I've definitely been in projects like that where it's like, fuck, you just don't like who you're in the group with. You're sitting next to somebody, you can't stand them. And I've learned how to like zone out and just like be inside of my own head, because you've got an 18-hour bus ride with somebody or whatever it is. And
all 4 band members are fighting.
Or they're drunk, or people are obnoxious, or this guy's coming down off of drugs and shit. And like,
isn't that annoying? You got to get somewhere as a band. You kind of also, you can see where bands and when bands are going to make it, because they treat it as a professional act as well, not just go out on the road, go on stage, be a blind, rotten, drunken idiot, or, you know, it's not that. Life isn't like that. I know a lot of bands are behind the scenes. You see the ones that are working hard. It's if you're making enough money just to fucking buy a beer at the end of the show, you're doing well too. So.
And it's it's a business too, as much as it is like, it is fun and stuff we all enjoy to do, because music is really, it has to be a labor of love. You don't just wake up one day and think, oh, I'm going to do this for a living and I'm going to be rich next week. It doesn't work that way.
If it did, everybody would do it, right?
Yeah. You see the people come through the bands and they're in and out of the band within a couple of weeks. Even on the media side, where I do what I'm doing, it's trying to garner support and getting people involved. It's like, oh, well, how much am I getting paid? It's like, well, the bands aren't getting paid yet, mate. You put in the fucking work and then we see what happens. And then it's the same with the bands these days, because you have all the streaming services, which is great to get the fucking music out there, but it also, it's getting that groundswell of support and then coming along to shows and then buying music or buying merch as well, that kind of gets that support to the band and keeps them going and gets them back into the studio and being able to work with the great people that you do work with and creating these professional works of art and bodies of music.
Totally agree.
Sam, tell us a little bit about how you got on board, mate.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I just kind of heard through the grapevine that there was this band that needed a drummer, and I reached out and I heard the music and I was really blown away at first. I heard maybe a couple songs. I was like, wow, this band really has a sound. I guess it was kind of just through the local music scene out here, and Alan and I both run our own private studios too, so there's that overlap as well. Being into music production and just knowing local producers and engineers and whatnot. But yeah, that was a couple years back, but so stoked to still be making, music and finally putting it out there and seeing what's going to happen with it.
Well, that's going to make it a hell of a lot easier too, because you and Alan, both engineers and music producers as well, able to work together and kind of, cut down a lot of those kind of outsourcing to other people as well.
Yeah, I think so. We can get a lot further at least. And then, when our ears are tired, then we can pass it off to somebody for mixing if we need to or whatever. But I think we can get a lot closer than I've ever been able to do in other bands, and just by having, myself and Sam be able to take to be able to do a big part of the work that way. So
it's also nice just having a studio here where we live. So if, we don't have to drive anywhere, if we're inspired, we could just put it together here, do a rough scratch recording and have it for later. After you get home from a long day of like working or whatever it is, like I used to try to do that with somebody else and it was really hard. But now that we have it here, I can just come home and 2 minutes I'm in front of the microphone or something. So it really helps having it here.
Well, yeah, it's super casual. You don't have like the pressure of being like in a big building. And I mean, we still do that stuff too, but like, especially when you're scratching or demoing songs out, you don't really know what the song's going to be. You're just putting stuff down and just building it and seeing what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be great for the creation process for you all as well, having that studio in-house as well, because when you go pay for studio time, you've got a couple of days to kind of get in there and do it. And kind of you guys have that freedom to just like, okay, we're creative now. We've got something going. Let's get in there and do this now. We'll strike while it's hot, as they say.
Exactly.
Helps save some funds too, you know, so rent out like a studio for 5 hours or something.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably that's what takes so long. Aside from the music, writing the music and recording it is probably the easiest part for us. But like there was this time gap, like, okay, you have the pandemic and it made the world kind of like, well, are you able to go tour? Is this shit gonna happen again? Should we just wait? And I just wanted to wait. And then it took a while to find the right video producer, and then like organizing all the business. That stuff doesn't just happen in a day, because it's one thing you can put your stuff out there, but if it's not done right, everything's going to sink right to the bottom of the YouTube ocean or whatever. So there was like this kind of a lengthy time period this last year that was like, shit, well, how do we, you got to get the right people involved creatively, and then figure out the business of how do you put it out there so people can actually hear it.
Exactly, and it has paid off. That music video is an absolute mint looking video. It's a really professional looking one. It's like 6.2 thousand views on it in 6 days as well. So like you're saying, it's kind of representing a product for you guys as well going forward, and this is who you are as a band, so you want it to have that professional look. Tell us a little bit about not only getting the views and the reaction for the video, but making the video.
The video I thought was very fun. It's definitely my first music video, so I was a little nervous, but thankfully, like I mentioned before, I have that dancing background. So we used to perform all the time. We'd like prepare a whole, routine and choreograph, and then we'd take time to like rent out everything, or the dance studio would, and then we hit the stage and we dance. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna rely on that, and I'm gonna just go up there and hopefully I nail it. That's kind of what we did. We had a little bit of practice before that. Alan and I came with a lot of concepts. We got Jenny's and Sam's ideas too, and we all kind of put it together. And I mean, we did work really hard on it, but we also kind of slapped a lot of it together.
No, it came out really, really well as well. What's the YouTube channel you guys have got so everyone can get over and check that one out as well?
Oh, the YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, there's a thing right now, because we have a video distribution, there's 2 YouTube channels, but it's going to just be one YouTube. That's YouTube/Stray and The Wild.
Stray and The Wild. Okay, cool.
But if you're looking for the one with the video right now for the next month or so, it's Stray and The Wild Vivo.
Yeah, I did see that.
But eventually they're merging together as one channel. It's just the way the distribution works, I guess.
Yeah, well, tell us about where the name came from. That's an interesting name as well.
That came about as we wrote a song called Stray in the Wild that we recorded, that's going to get released at some point, and played live for sure. That was the name of the song, and we were working on band names a while back. It just kept coming back up and up and up. And also, like, a lot of these songs that we wrote are, being that we're all animal lovers, and a lot of the lyrics too are, seeing eyes through the life of animals, or through people that are unfortunate or overlooked or whatnot. And we felt like that name just really kind of fit. It was a catchy name. It was clean, but it also kind of fit like our ideals too.
Yeah, we definitely had a list going, and this particular one and one other one we kind of held on to. And to be honest, we asked our close friends and family, like, which one resonates to you the most, and that definitely helped.
And also, you got to be aware too, like when you're doing a Google search, people got to be aware when they're naming bands or naming businesses. First off, you want to make sure nobody has that name. And if you're doing a Google search, there's not something messed up that shows up, like, oh, there's this toilet paper company that has a similar name. Yeah. And now you've got like all these Google searches that look ridiculous. So other than our band, there's a bunch of images of stray animals. So that's not
like rescue
or wild animals. Yeah. So I'm okay with
Everybody
that.
should love animals. There's a saying, I won't go quite as extreme with my language, but if you don't like animals and you're mean to animals, you're an absolute fucking
No, totally.
What's wrong with you?
I don't get
What's
it.
wrong with you? There's something mentally not right. I love animals. I love my fur babies. I love my dogs. I've got my cockatiels chirping in the morning. I always open the sun up. It's the best
Nice.
thing in the morning for me, having them chirp away. I do got to ask Ginny and Sam what they're using and what their setups are as well at the moment. To bring them into the convo a little. Tell us about your bass setup, Ginny. And then we'll go to Sam for his drums.
I was like, well, we'll go to Sam, but Sam's is going to be all long.
Yeah, I know. So we'll go to Ginny first.
I'm using a Rickenbacker bass, and I use Ampeg Pro head and then classic speakers. So mine's pretty easy.
Nice.
Sam?
So I've got this 1972 Ludwig kit, and it's like super oversized shells. So like my floor tom is a 20-inch, which is, a bass drum size. And then I use Meinl cymbals out from Germany, Vic Firth sticks made here in America, and Remo heads, and trick pedals.
Oh yeah. Fuck yeah. I always got to ask about the setups for the muso nerds in there. Alan, tell us a little bit about what you're using guitar-wise, mate.
Well, as a guitar player, I'm a Gibson person. For this group, I'm using a 335 in the video, and I've done that in a lot of the songs, but I also play Les Pauls primarily. So it's been a combination between the 335 or the Les Pauls in the record. And amps, I'm a Mesa Boogie artist, so I do use my Mesas, and also an Ernie Ball artist. Love Ernie Ball strings and accessories. Aside from that, I also love like old school, like vintage amps. I have a 65 and a 67 Fender Bassman head that I love. One of them I got from my buddy Todd Youth, who used to play in Danzig and Motorhead. And unfortunately, he passed away about 2 years ago. But he introduced me to those amps, and it's changed my whole life. And I'm also using 212, like the 212 Fender cabs, 67 cabs.
Fuck yeah.
I have a massive pedal board. I like using a lot of for this band, I've been using a lot of like delays and echoes as well. Things like that. I love the like the Bassman thing because it's one sound, really, and I'm controlling all the gain or all the all the distortion of the gain or how clean it is, just my volume knob on the guitar. It's so simple that that's how it should be. And honestly, a lot of the bands that I like, I'm a big fan of like 60s and 70s artists too, and everything was so organic that they use such simple setups. Yeah, it just kind of worked itself out for this.
It did. And you also do, I do want to quickly mention as well, you also do work with film as well. You help co-write and develop film scores, which I'm spewing my co-host isn't here because he does the same bloody thing as well.
Nice.
Those are really fun, Taylor.
Yeah, that must be fun for you to be able to do that as well and kind of create those soundscapes for movies and film and TV as well.
It's so different.
Yep.
Jenny actually helped with one. She played her violin on one.
Yeah.
We had a horror feature that came out a few months ago. Jenny played on.
It's crazy how many horror sounds are violin. I've been playing violin since I was 5, and I didn't realize like all of it, like the psycho songs, like all like the creepy bugs crawling, like that's all violin.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
I love the sound of violin. So you were playing violin first by the sounds of it, yeah?
Yeah, I was like, well, kind of like Ali, like I wanted to be a dancer, but then I guess I was like so bad that it was embarrassing. So my parents are like, hey, you want to try this violin instead? And that took a little better. So I started with the violin. I started playing, but then I fell in love with like Nirvana and all that. And I started guitar and all that when I was like 12, and then bass when I was 13.
Okay, awesome. There you go. That's absolutely great. So what's next for Stray Plus the Wild? Don't say give anything too much away, but you're going to release anything before the end of the year as we go into the end of the year into 2024, or what's next?
Well, we're working on that's a good question. Honestly, we're working on tour dates. We're probably going to get a good Los Angeles show in before the end of the year, and planning the next what the next single / music video is going to be. I know there's this whole like thing about like these fucking algorithms, like you need to release music every month, but I personally don't believe in that. I think you should be doing stuff when you feel like you should release it. Don't force it to feed a computer. We have a lot of songs recorded that we dig, but I want to make sure everything's released in a way that does justice to the song and justice to the our ability to promote it.
We don't want to release all the songs at once because we know how quickly people forget. So we want to keep them engaged. So probably one song at a time, but we'll try to keep them not too far apart. Like we don't want to wait 6 months or anything like that. We want to, slowly show the public and churn them out while giving us time to continue to write.
Yeah, that's it. Kind of do what feels right for you and fuck your algorithm and just kind of release it when it's good for Stray Plus the Wild. I feel you on that, Alan. It does get a bit infuriating at times, doesn't it?
It's just a lot of I think the scene it's changing every year too, like these demands on artists. And
yep,
I mean, I think if you have something real, just release it when you're comfortable releasing it. And hopefully if we're fortunate enough to where people like what we do and they continue to like what we do, then the fans will still be there and the support will keep coming in for it if you're doing something real.
Exactly. Support is everything. So while we are there, we will sign out. I will ask for last words and shout outs and everything like that. But I do want to get into support. Where's the best place people can get along and support Stray Plus the Wild?
Right now you can go to we're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Our regular website is strayandthewild.com. If you're Instagram, you can go to the Instagram /strayandthewild. And in our bio, there's a link tree that has like a long list of places you can find us. And of course, YouTube, find us on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you stream music, anywhere you watch music videos. You can either search under Stray and the Wild or Stray Plus the Wild, and you'll find us. You can also blast it really loud in your car, so when anyone jumps in, they're like, who is this? You go, this is who it is, Stray Plus the Wild. Crank this fucker up. Okay, we'll go through and ask for last words, shout outs, thank yous, and anything else I may have forgotten you want to add in there, my friends. Whoever wants to go first. I think the cat wants to go first.
Yeah.
What about me? Last words, guys. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say we're grateful to work with our team with Mudrock and Howie Weinberg, and also Mesa Boogie, of course, Ernie Ball, of course. We just worked out a relationship with Telefunken Microphones, yeah, of course, thanks all of our friends and family. And anything you want to add? Or
yeah, if anybody's looking for a dog in Australia, you can check out beaglefreedomaustralia.org. That's one of the organizations that I spend my time with. The Beagle Freedom Project. I was over having a look at the websites of that just before I jumped in here as well. Good on you too as well. Ginny and Sam, would you like last words as well?
I would also like to say thank you to Ernie Ball for giving us strings and making Stingrays awesome. And thanks to you for having us on your show.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thank you so much for having us on. It's cool to be on an Australian magazine site. That's awesome. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Absolute pleasure. Everybody, crank up Stray Plus the Wild. The new single is Show Me the Way. Get it in the stereos. Crank it up really bloody loud. The neighbours going to want to hear it as well. Cheers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.